Alright, hello, welcome to this video that I honestly have no idea what I'm going to call it. Haven't really come up with the title for it. A movie swap, something like that. This has been in the works for months. Absolutely months. And I want to just apologise to, you know who you are. I'm sorry it took me so long to get this done. And you'll become aware who I'm talking about in just a minute. But this is an idea that I had a couple of years ago actually, and I just never found the right person to do it with. Maybe I still haven't, I don't know. Then again, I think I'm part of the problem. But we decided on this months ago. It was all ready to go, but it's just taken me so long to get around to actually doing it. Basically the idea is I'd be me and another YouTuber. We exchange lists of great films that we've seen and figure out which ones the other person hasn't seen. And we did that, and we figured it out, and we've both got a long list now of films that we both haven't seen, at least to the point of us making the list. They might have changed now. And so we then both picked a film for each other to watch and make a video about, a film we'd never seen before that the other person thought was great in some way. So later on in this video you'll actually see a clip of him talking about why he likes the film, and vice versa. You'll get that in his video as well. I'm not sure when that'll be going up. The plan was to get them both out at the same time, but because it's taken me so long to do it, I really don't know. But the film that I'm going to watch, I should say who this whole thing is with. It's jollestudio1, Joel, one of my favourite YouTubers. I can just watch anything he puts out, just really easy viewing. I like his thoughts on movies, I love his vlogs, so if you haven't seen him, definitely go check him out, give him a sub if you enjoy his videos, that is of course. And yeah, go check out his other part of this little project. As soon as he's done it, I'll put the link to his video in the description of this one down below. And he chose a film for me that is a pretty old film, a Russian film I believe, by Tarkovsky, who I've seen nothing from whatsoever, and the film is Andrei Rublev, which I believe is about an actual historical painter from way back when, hundreds of years ago. And I'm sure once I've seen the film I'll read up on it and have more to tell you about it, but I'm going to watch it now. The thing is, it's 3 hours long, and that's just the thing. It's always the case with me. It's like, right, December, I'm doing Star Wars videos, and and then I got a job doing editing back in October, and then it was like, okay, I got to get my proper videos done that I get paid for, and then I got to get my YouTube videos done. I got to watch horror films. I was doing a horror month, I think, when we first decided on doing this, which was about 5 months ago. Oh man, but yeah, I always been distracted by something. Then at Christmas I was home, I didn't have the time to do it, and then I've been trying to watch all these 2015 films to catch up before the Oscars. But now enough is enough. It's Friday night, I'm home alone, I'm going to watch this film, I'm going to check out Andrei Rublev. I've got a glass of Coke there, don't tell Connie. I got a pizza downstairs, and I'm about to go and cut to pepperoni pizza. I'm really looking forward to it. I don't know if this is a pizza, glass of Coke and bag of sweets movie. I'm assuming it probably isn't, but I'm really hungry, so that's what I'm going to do. Yes, I'm aware it's slightly burnt, but I like to take no chances. No, I kind of like it a little bit extra crispy. Let's see if I can continue slicing the pizza while holding the camera. Can that work? Yeah, it can a little bit, cool. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm very hungry, and I'm looking forward to the film. Again, I'm pretty sure it's one of those things where it's going to be kind of a grueling watch. I don't know anything about the film. I don't know anything about, you know, where the plot is going to go, which is kind of fun actually. So, but I'm sure I've read somewhere that it is, you know, it's not an easy watch, you know. And I think even Joel said that himself to me, and that when he got the film, when he first bought it, that it took him quite a while to get around to it, because it was kind of a daunting one to sit down and put the time into. Anyway, I'm going to finish cutting this because I need to. The pieces are all starting to fall apart now, and then I'll join you back upstairs in just a second. Alright, I'm just about ready to go. Got my pizza, got a nice glass of Coke here, just some cheap Coke with some nice ice cubes as always, and a little bag of sweets. I went to a big shopping mall today to get our cat's litter, which they don't sell in normal shops. And so when I go to this big mall, which takes about half an hour to get to, I always make sure I get some of these. It'll focus. They're just really nice kind of caramel chocolate sweets that I'm pretty sure we have back in the UK, or at least an equivalent of it. So it reminds me of home. They're really nice, and so I picked up a few. Right, I'm going to be playing the film through the laptop, which is currently connected to the TV. Oh, that's kind of cool. It's Connie's laptop, and she has a slideshow on the desktop of all of her drawings. So we have Johnny Depp down there as Jack Sparrow. And we did just have a portrait of him, but it's gone now. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a funny coincidence. 2 Johnny Depp portraits on the TV and the laptop. Right, anyway, I'm going to start playing this and get into it. I don't know how I'm going to do this, whether I'm going to stop the film halfway through and talk about it. We'll just see. We'll just see what happens. Alright, here we go. Andrei Rublev. Let's hope it's a good one. I've just realised, obviously this film's Russian, so I'd have to read English subtitles, so I'm probably just gonna give a pass on this movie and not check it out. I mean, I'm sure it's great, but I just haven't got the time to be reading while watching, you know. Shame, real shame. Alright, I'm about an hour into Andrei Rublev, and it's been very interesting indeed. It's kind of split into parts. I'm not sure how many parts are in this, but it's kind of sort of like chapters, I suppose, and so it's not quite a singular flowing narrative as opposed to stories out of this man's life. There was an opening sequence, a prologue I suppose, that I don't believe is connected to anything that happens in the film. It was quite an interesting one. I enjoyed it for sure. It hooked me into the film, but then I'm not sure what its purpose really served beyond that. And then we had part 1, and we start the story, or we start a story that takes place in Andrei Rublev's life. And again, the first part, the first chapter, I don't know what to call it really, I'll just call it the first part, part 1, was kind of a bit of a comedy scene, but then it segued into more of a kind of serious conclusion, I suppose. And now I know that he was in that scene. I wasn't sure who he was in the first part of the film, in part 1, I should say. It was enjoyable. I'm loving the way this film is shot, the way it looks, the authenticism, is that a word? The authentic feel I get from this film. It almost feels like they somehow sneaked cameras into the 1400s and made this before cinema even existed. Very, very authentic feeling film, and the cinematography is fantastic. Some of the performances are really great. It seems to me that the 3 people, including Andrei Rublev, 2 of his companions, Daniil and Kirill, 3 guys, I believe they left their hometown, or they left somewhere that they came from, and they said at the beginning that they'd be gone for 10 years, and someone said he'd be gone for 9 years, so I'm assuming we're seeing like his journey outwards into the world, I suppose, and every time we get a new part it tells you the year basically. So quite a few years have passed already, an hour into the film, and I'm on part 5 now. So the first part, it was enjoyable, but I wasn't sure who was who. The second part was interesting. I got to learn about the 3 main characters a bit more. I'm not sure if they're going to even be the 3 main characters, but the 3 characters that leave in part 1 with Andrei. Of course, he is the main character, so at least his kind of core group at the beginning. Learned a bit more about them. There was a great kind of scene with this guy kicking off at the end. He just was in this crowd of people, and he just gave them all a piece of his mind. At least I think that was... Maybe... No. That was part 3. Yeah, part 2... Yeah, it's the beginning of building up to that, which, again, if you've seen the film, you might know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, you've got no idea. But it's hard to follow. It is hard to follow, I'll be honest. But I'm enjoying it, I'm enjoying where it's going. But there's a disjointed feel to it at the same time, so I'm wondering how it's going to play out, how it's going to pan, how it's going to reach a conclusion at the very end. If it's all going to tie together, if there's going to be this kind of, eureka, come to Jesus meeting where it's like, hallelujah, this is, it all makes sense now. Not that it's confusing, I shouldn't say that, it's like I don't know what's going on, but, at this point it's like he's just going through, I suppose, lessons in his life. And they're kind of, the conversations the characters are having are to do with these kind of moral issues and things like that, and, again, it's a tricky film. I'm sure that it's one that can be analysed for tens of thousands of pages of essays and articles and reviews and critiques and analysis, and It's a very rich film, for sure. But I'm not sure if I'm fully kind of locking into it just yet. So yeah, part 2, part 3 are good. Part 4, wait, how many parts? I don't know actually. I don't know how many parts are in this film. I really don't. Maybe I should go and find out. I'll do that now. Alright, here we go. Awful lighting, green screen in the background. So we have 8 chapters apparently. The first chapter was The Jester, which takes place in summer of 1400. Then we jump forward 5 years to Theophanes the Greek, which I quite enjoyed, and there was definitely a part of it that it felt like more the beginning of the film than the other part did. The other part was very slow, and you just didn't know what was going on. But I kind of like that, you know. And that's one thing that 3-hour-long films have the potential to do, is to really immerse you in that world or that character or that story, whatever it may be, and you have a lot more time to indulge yourself in these quieter moments that make the louder moments even more impactful, because you believe in that world more, if you know what I mean. If I, I mean, not that this is a great example, but if I saw a scene in a film of a couple and they're sitting down, watching TV, having dinner, having a meal, just having a couple of jokes and stuff, you can do that in a normal commercial, standard hour-and-a-half movie. You can do that scene in like 10 seconds, just quick montage, oh, they're eating dinner, they're watching TV, they're having a couple of jokes and laughs, on to the next scene. Now you could spend 10 minutes on that, and it wouldn't, it might drag to some people, but then when they have their big bust up, I'd be more invested in it, because I'd already seen how they operate as a couple. I'd felt like I know them in a way. I don't know if my point is coming across here, but that's one thing that long films can achieve. I'm not saying they always do, just because they have a long running time and they have more than the average film, but it seems to me that this might be the case with this film, and that I might be a lot more invested. But then again, I don't really feel... I felt more connected to Andrei Rublev's character in part 4 more than anything else. It's where he is kind of becoming a bit of a voyeur, and he's watching these people running around naked and stuff, and he knows it's a sin, but he's intrigued, it seems like, and then he kind of he gets the short end of the stick because of that. So I don't know, but part 3 was The Passion According to Andrei. That's probably the best one so far, and that takes place in 1406. So again, we keep jumping ahead a couple of years every time, pretty much, and I like this one. They're out in the woods, and there's a great conversation between Andrei and Theophanes. This a beautifully staged conversation where they're walking around and stuff, and one of them is looking in the opposite direction while addressing the person, but yet the way that it's framed on camera, like, oh, it's fantastic, really, really great direction, and such an interesting scene. And then there's this weird kind of recreation of the crucifixion of Christ, and then the idea of how these horrible things happen throughout history, and man is kind of destined to repeat those evils, and that's something I very much related to. So that's the best part of the film for me so far, was part 3. Chapter 3, we'll call them chapters. I'm now on chapter 5, which is, what is it called? The Last Judgment. Sounds interesting, so on we go with Andrei Rublev. Alright, the credits are rolling. You probably can see the last vestiges of them there in the reflection of the frame. The film's over, it's done. The 3-hour and 5-minute running time is complete. I've finished the film, and now it's starting all over again, so I'll turn the TV off. Many thoughts. Many thoughts. Yeah. I took a break in the middle. It's actually a film in 8 chapters, an epilogue, a prologue, and 2 parts. Part 1 is the first, I think, 5 chapters, and then part 2 is chapters 6, 7, and 8, and then the epilogue. So the last 3 chapters are significantly more substantial than the first 5 in terms of length. And I'm just come to the end of my capacity on my memory card, so I've got that out of the way. I'll sort it out and get back to you on the camera. Alright, I'm back, and yeah, I'm aware the lighting isn't ideal, but you know, you're listening to me, you're not really trying to pick out all the details on my face. So I just actually sent a message to Joel and said, I'm done, and he literally just replied with, ah, cool. I don't know how cool it's going to be, really. And this is what the whole thing is about to me, is again swapping movies that you think are great with someone else and hearing their thoughts on it. And for me, honesty is absolute paramount. And this is my kind of outlook on things all across the board. Honesty above all. Like, even if it isn't the best thing for the other person to hear, I would just prefer it to be honest. You know, it's just the way it is. If he watches the film that I've selected for him, and he says, I just really hated it, or I really did not like it, you know, awesome. I like that because it means it's a genuine reaction. Obviously, you know, you can't always tell. You know, maybe he'll say, oh, that he loved it, which could easily be, you know, put on. But I trust his level of honesty and integrity enough to judge it honestly and not take my the fact that I recommended it into account, if you know what I mean. I'm getting far off base here. The point is, I need to talk about the film, and I did think it was great. Andrei Rublev, although from what I can understand, the way they were speaking, it's actually I'm never going to attempt it. That's not how you pronounce it, but it's just the English simplified way of pronouncing it. Andrei Rublev was an icon painter. You know, painted these you know, these kind of like mural things on like churches, things like that, in the 15th century. So in the 1400s. In Russia, and this film is a loosely, you know, based, biopic, I guess you could say. There's not really, as far as I'm aware, much information about him. So again, a lot of it is loosely based, and from what I understand, Tarkovsky was really making a film about kind of medieval Russia, which, yes, I did take off the Wikipedia page. Now that comes into play as well. I did refer to the Wikipedia page while watching the second part of the film because it was just difficult to follow at times, I have to say. And that goes from the beginning of the film. And if you remember back earlier, I said I wonder if there's going to be like a hallelujah moment, and there kind of was. Towards the end there, this character popped up, and I was like, ah, him! Ah, wait, oh, so, ah, right, because he got taken away. And I just thought, okay, he got taken away. But it turns out one of the three main characters at the beginning kind of ratted him out. And we find out who did that towards the end of the film. I never thought that was going to come back in. It just seemed like a random occurrence that was just showing you a part of their journey. So I like that it came back and tied it into the end. There's another thing that comes in right at the end that ties another part of the film together. So in that sense, I really like that part of it. The cinematography, the direction is stunning, astounding. I thought it was fantastic. It really was just, I mean, this film, it dragged for me because I was finding it difficult to follow every single element of the story, but it was never boring because every scene had something to look at. The performances were great. Again, the authenticity was absolutely off the charts. Again, but there is a big problem I have with the film. And now, I watched the 3-hour 5-minute cut. I believe there is like a 200-minute cut, which was on maybe Criterion DVD, something like that. At least the Criterion Laserdisc. And I'm assuming some of the scenes that were cut out for this 3-hour 5-minute version were scenes of more cruelty to animals, things like that. Although Tarkovsky says that this 3-hour version is his version and his preferred version of the film, so I didn't feel too bad, like, oh, I need to see the director's vision. But it's difficult for me because it seems to me very much like he views horses as this great symbol of life. There's the prologue to the film, we have this horse, just a shot of a horse rolling around like a cat onto its back, and that's it. And it seems to just kind of capture something about life to me. And throughout the film we see horses, and the final shot of the film is 4 horses just living, you know. And there's that kind of bookended sense of life, in my opinion, from what I got from it. I'm sure there's a lot more symbolism in the film, a lot more meaning. Maybe that's not what he meant, but that's what films and art are all about, is taking your own interpretation from it. But, you know, he focuses on those horses for a reason. And for me, it's some kind of overarching theme of life there. And so perhaps I'm reading into that he has a great respect for horses, a great love for horses. And so it perplexed me when I saw in this film a horse bleeding and being made to fall down these stairs, which obviously was very painful, and they did it for real. So I looked it up as I was watching the film, and sure enough, they took this horse from a slaughterhouse. It was going to get killed anyway. They brought it on set, they shot it in the neck, put it in the general direction of the stairs. It falls down the stairs. You see this in the film. It literally falls through the banister, and it doesn't like go down the steps. It actually falls off the side of this row of steps on this building, smacks down on the floor, kind of writhes around a little bit. And from what I understand, it must be in the extended cut. We then see someone come in with a spear and actually stab this horse for real. And then apparently once they stopped filming, they just shot the horse in the head and put it out of its misery. And obviously they didn't want to waste like a prize horse, you know, but they took one from the slaughterhouse. To me, that is absolutely not okay. Whether the horse was going to be killed or not, in terms of, you know, getting, well, I don't know, just, it doesn't matter to me. I'm one of those people who I value any life, whether it's human or not. I played this game recently called Never Alone. It's this weird game, but it like kind of it's a platforming game. It's pretty simple, but there's a really spiritual story, and it's based on the Inuits and also their kind of idea of the soul, and how in an animal, you know, there is a soul that is equal to a human soul, and that's how they view things. And I very much kind of go along with that to a point. I'm not that spiritual, but I still, again, I value the lives, and so I think you don't need to do that. You don't need to do that to sell the reality of a situation. Now, it was during this massive scene that was, and apparently there's another shot in the film with a cow on fire, and apparently they put it in a flame retardant cover, and it wasn't harmed or anything like that, and I didn't see that, so obviously that's in the longer cut of the film. I just don't think you need to be doing that. I really don't. In fact, there was another scene that looked like they killed another horse because it was flailing around, then it just kind of went limp. I don't know if it was just a really good horse that was acting well, I don't know. And if they killed that then, I feel like that's horrible, because this horse has been put in a situation where people are running around and screaming and there's fire and stuff, and then you get killed. That is a horrifying situation for an animal, because they don't understand that it isn't real. You know, think a horse is like, okay, I'm going on set now. No. And again, this horse that got shot in the neck, it's struggling down these sets of stairs, and the set of stairs, and you can see the blood just pulsing out of it, and just to know that it just got shot in the neck just before that was kind of heartbreaking to me, and it really put me off the film for like a few minutes. I don't like it. I really don't. And it goes for anything really. You know, was it Friday the 13th where they find a snake in the huts, and they just chop the snake in half? It sickened me to my stomach. I hate snakes. I fucking hate snakes. But that just made my blood run cold. You don't need to do that. You know, you don't need to do that. And there could have been another way to do it, or just don't do it. You know, I just don't think that it added anything. And if anything, I think it was something that took me out of the film. And so you spent all this, I mean, again, towards the end of the film, there's this huge sequence of this bell being built. And just the scale of it in some of the scenes are just like phenomenal. It's like, wow, I just believe that I'm watching real life right now. I believe I'm in the 15th century. But when I see a horse stagger down a set of stairs, bleeding, and then falling off for real, I think, shit, they actually made a horse do that. And when I think they actually made a horse do that, I think this is a film. And it takes me out of it. There's another scene where these kind of I don't know what you would call them, but these guys come in. They're kind of rougher, like soldier. I don't know. I don't know how to describe them, because I'm so clueless in terms of the you know, the time period, and also what race these people are supposed to be. So I'm not even going to try and guess. But they're Asian men anyway, and they're kind of wild men in a way. But anyway, they got this big hunk of dirty meat, and they're just lobbing off chunks to all these dogs that are fighting over them, and they're laughing and taunting the dogs and stuff. Fair enough. But there's a scene where the dogs are just running for the meat, and they are fighting each other, they're biting each other and stuff like that, and everyone's laughing and stuff, and it just made me a little bit uncomfortable. I mean, sure, it could just be kind of a, you know, playful aggression, but it just seemed like they were rattling these dogs up more than they needed to be. I just didn't need to see that. I really didn't need to see that. And again, I take that way over seeing an animal get killed, but those moments take me out of it. And I just thought, if they hadn't done that, it would have been a smooth, just believability throughout the whole film. So, yeah, that bothered me. That really did. I can't lie. And this goes to so many things. There's so many, I mean, do you watch a Woody Allen film or a Roman Polanski film and think, well, I can't enjoy this because, XXX. It's tough. It really is tough. How can you just enjoy the art for what it is, or do you have to look into the people behind it? And but with this, it's on screen. Excuse me. It's on screen. I'm gonna sneeze again. It's on screen. I'll leave that in. And I don't know, man. I don't know. But anyway, I was still having problems with it because the geography of the film was confusing. Where we were, what was happening. There's these things with the Grand Prince and his brother, and there's this whole kind of side story with them. And I read into the Wikipedia page, and once I did that and read through the plot, it made more sense. But it was after I read it spelled out. If they're going to go to the efforts of kind of bookending every kind of sequence in the film with part 3. So and so, 14, 12, summer, and all that kind of stuff. Then why not just go the extra mile and have a 10-second, 15-second title card saying, Andrei Rublev is now here. He's now doing this. He's painting this for the Grand Prince, who is here doing this. Job done. And then you set the stage then. But I don't know. Maybe there's more merit in a film that doesn't hold your hand like that, and I appreciate that. And again, we have a film about a painter. Historical painter who did these great paintings and everything, and we never see him paint in the film. You never see him even begin to start painting anything. It's always him talking about his painting or why he doesn't want to paint. There's moments where he says like, I don't want to paint because it's not what I want to do, and there's a lot of kind of the creativity of an artist being stifled is definitely a theme in the film. Freedom of expression and stuff like that. But it just kind of, well, I haven't even seen him paint, Now, I kind of like the idea of seeing a 3-hour film about a painter and you never see him paint. I kind of like that. But at the same time, it's like, well, I want to see, I'm so split about it. And then the film ends very beautifully with the whole film shot in black and white. And for a reason, it definitely adds to everything. And the last shot of the narrative of the film is, and again, this isn't really spoiling much because I don't feel like there's much to spoil in this film. You just need to see it. But the last shot of the film is just some bits of wood burning, basically. And then there's kind of like a crash cut to bits of wood burning, and it's in colour. And it's like, whoa. And then we start seeing the actual paintings of Andrei Rublev, filmed, I guess, wherever they're held in the world. And we see the camera panning across these and this big operatic music. It's a beautiful moment where you kind of get to step back and say, okay, this is the work. And maybe that's how or why we never saw him paint in the film, because we get to see these paintings at the end, and that kind of lets you okay, the film's over now, I can now look and see what this guy actually did, and I really appreciated that. But it went on a little too long, I have to say. I was kind of losing interest. It feels like it went over 10 minutes. It was probably more like 5 or 6. I feel like they could have trimmed that a little bit and made it more impactful, more powerful. There were bits where it was just zooming in on really obscure details, and I would have preferred more just of the why. I don't know. But I thought it was a fantastic idea and a great way to end the film. So overall, a great film. In fact, there's one thing I really wanted to talk about. There is one shot in the film that I think is potentially maybe the most beautiful death scene I've ever seen in a film, if not one of the best. And it's this character who is he was running away from something, and he gets shot in the back by an arrow, and he realizes he's been shot in the back, and he's kind of walking towards this tree, and looks like he's trying to grab it, and his hand just moves past it. And at first I was like, he's overdoing this, the actor, he's overdoing this a bit. And then oh, it's in slow motion. Okay, that works. And he kind of moves forward, and then he kind of really realistically kind of stumbles and falls down face first into a kind of shallow stream. The camera pans down, we're in slow motion, and his face just goes face down. and then his body just floats out very slowly. Camera pans back a little and we just see the stream running through. And for me, you know, streams, rivers, the ocean, very kind of symbolic with just life, you know. I always think that, you know, going back to like Pink Floyd, things like The Endless River, A Boat Lies Waiting, just the thematic coupling of life, death, you know, the eternal chain of it all, and flowing water, to me, just there's just a link there visually, you know, and to see that person die and their body just be taken off by the stream. It was so beautifully shot, and so realistic. Once I realized that it was in slow motion, he wasn't like going, you know, he wasn't playing it up in slow motion. It was a slow motion shot, and oh, gorgeous, just a really powerful moment. And the film was full of things like that. That's probably my favourite part of the whole film, but it's full of really great bits. I just felt like the overall narrative was a bit like, okay, now we're here, now there's this character and he's talking to him, and everyone's got kind of the same haircut and the same beard, you know, and but I like that they didn't hold your hand, you know. I'm conflicted about it because, you know, I always want to say that a film is a 10 out of 10 and all that kind of stuff, and this one is frequently listed as one of the greatest films of all time. I can see that, but for me it ain't quite there. But I certainly appreciate the artistry to an incredible degree. I just really do not agree with the treatment of the horses in this film at all. It ain't cool. And in fact, he was asked about Tarkovsky, and he said that you know, it was handled with delicately, and I don't even think what we did was that bad. I've seen worse elsewhere. Just because you've seen worse elsewhere doesn't mean it's okay. I just couldn't fathom hurting anyone for a film. I mean, yeah, maybe a couple of stunts to slap around the face, you know, in terms of humans and stuff, but when it comes to animals, you know, no. You don't lay a hand on an animal in a film, for real. You know, there's ways to fake it, even back in the 60s. I just don't think it added that. I mean, of course, there's that shock factor, but do you need that? Do you really need that? I don't know. But I will say that horse thing, it didn't colour my perception of the film. It bothered me for a few minutes. I managed to move past it. I've seen things like this before. But it was just a real disappointment, you know, to see that and then think, oh, that's a real fucking shame that I just witnessed that, you know. But lots of powerful scenes in the film. And by the climax, I thought the climax was very good. The payoff to Andrei Rublev's character. Again, this is very highly fictionalized, I'm sure. I haven't looked into it, but I'm almost 99% sure there's no real historical kind of, you know, date by date account of his life. But the payoff to his character at the end of the film was really moving, and I really liked it. And the actor who played him was fantastic. Some great actors in the film. I won't even try to pronounce their names or anything like that, but there was a top cast. It really was. And yeah, so that's pretty much about it. We're going to wrap this up now with Joel's kind of thoughts on the film. Not a review, not a full in-depth thing, but I said it'd be good if we had each other in each other's videos, kind of giving a brief 1 to 2, 3 minute kind of explanation of why they recommended the other person this video and why they think the film is great. So I'm going to watch that now, and so are you, and then we'll talk at the end and wrap this whole thing up. So yeah, I'm going to do that now.
Okay, it's now time for me to explain why I chose Andrei Rublev for Luke. I could have chosen one out of so many movies. I went with Andrei Rublev. Mainly because I just think it's such an epic and grand movie. The scope of the movie is just... I mean, okay, so there are a lot of movies you can call epic. It doesn't necessarily say too much about a movie. It's been used by many to describe many kinds of movies. But what makes it epic for me is that it feels like you're taken to a completely different time and place. I mean it takes place sometime during the medieval times, I guess. I'm not sure exactly when, but sometime during the medieval times, and it doesn't feel like actors are playing out these scenes, and it doesn't feel like there's a camera crew filming this. I mean, you know, it feels like you're there at that time. It's like with The Seventh Seal or something by Bergman. He manages to achieve that same authenticity, I guess, and that's it's not the same kind of movie as Andrei Rublev, but when I watched The Seventh Seal, it reminded me a little bit of Andrei Rublev because of that, because it just feels like like you're there, and that's a cool thing, and a difficult thing to achieve. I would presume. I don't make movies, but I think it probably is. Now I haven't seen the movie in a while, like I said, so there are probably things that I could have commented on if I had it more fresh in my memory. And there are a lot of sort of philosophical discussion in the movie that probably went over my head, so I think that I would probably, yeah, gain a lot more or whatever if I watch it again. But that is the main reason why I chose it, and it's also very convincing. Certain sequences are extremely convincing in the way that they're filmed. Like, I don't remember exactly where it falls in the movie or in the story, but there is, I think, a raid. What there is at one point an attack on, I don't know, a castle, maybe not, but there's an attack, a raid, which is pulled off and carried out so well. The way it's filmed, the way the action just kind of, well, anyway, it's incredibly convincing, and there is a horse, sort of, I think, falling to its death in that scene, which, you know, I guess, I mean, I don't know, anyways, but overall, that scene is absolutely mind-blowing, and the movie just has so much great cinematography, like the opening scene. I think the camera kind of travels with a balloon or something. Anyway, so many great things about it, and yeah, but epic and convincing are the two words that I would end this with. Okay.
Alright, interesting. That gave me a lot. First of all, another shot I loved, I just thought about after I turned the camera off. There's this woman who swims away from these guys who are trying to get her, and she kind of, we're on a boat with Andrei Rublev, and it pans past him down behind the boat, and we see her swimming right next to the camera, and then the camera, I guess, pans way up high, and she's swimming in this weird semicircle, and it just seems like she isn't moving, yet she is moving forward, but the camera is getting so high without you even really realizing it. It's a fucking mind-blowing shot. I don't know how they, like, maybe it's just one of those things where because it was all water, you can't really perceive that the camera's really moving up, but it just, by the end of the shot I was like, holy shit, how far back have we gone? Like, that's just one of the things that you know. And anyway, so you've heard from Joel, lots of interesting things there. He seemed to quite enjoy the fact that a horse fell to its death. You know, I didn't think he was that cold-hearted of a person. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. He did mention the horse though, and yeah, the raid scene was, yeah, definitely one of those kind of epic scenes. And as he said, epic and convincing. Convincing is definitely a word I would use to characterize this movie. As he said, it doesn't feel like you're watching a performance and actors in front of a camera. It really feels like you're there. And you know, going back to what I said earlier in terms of the animal stuff, kind of taking me out of it. But that aside, definitely. And also the philosophical discussions, there's a lot of that in the film that definitely went over my head too. And when you're talking about God and you know, God will repent for your sins, and in the eyes of God you're forgiven but you can't forgive yourself, and then what does it mean to be all this kind of, yeah, I'm an atheist, you know, I'm not averse to watching Christian films, biblical films, but it's hard for me to engage with them, really. There's not much of an interest level for me there. So that side of the film, again, it didn't give me the incentive to really pay attention to some of those more philosophical discussions in the film. And yeah, so I think he summed it up right. He said there's a lot of great things about it, and I would agree with that. But I just don't think from the opening bell to the final, you know, count at the end, it was a, you know, I just wish there were little things about it. I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. You know, I don't want to say that I didn't like the film, because I definitely thought it was fantastic. It just was a couple of notches short of being, you know, like a 10 out of 10 for me. And I really wish that it would, because for me, when you hear about a film that's one of the greatest of all time, and it's like a 3-hour movie, and it's like, you got this epic scope, and it has got this epic scope, and the direction is incredible and all that kind of thing. I want to give it that seal of approval. Not that it means anything to anyone, but I like to, I don't know, I like to award a film a 10 out of 10 from my perspective, but I just couldn't do it in good conscience with this one, because it was just a little bit too like, what's going on in this bit at times, you know, just a little bit more explanation. But then again, you know, I do love films that don't give you much explanation, so perhaps in later years, as an old man, I'll reflect upon this film, now knowing the general gist of the plot, pop it on one day and just go, wow, you know. And that happens, Opinions on films change for me. Usually not quite drastically, but they're definitely in small increments, and I could definitely see me watching this film maybe a handful more times in my life and kind of getting more out of it, and again, knowing that the horse scene is coming, and to try not to let it bother me, I suppose. Now this video's gone on for far too long, but I didn't want to keep it trim or short, because hey, it's me. But that's about all I can say. I would rate it about a 9 out of 10, I think, and I would highly recommend anyone to watch it. If you're a film fan, a cinephile, whatever you want to categorize yourself as in terms of a movie lover, you know, if you just like films, definitely give it a shot, because there are some beautiful sequences in the film, and again, you might enjoy it more than I did in terms of the narrative. You might enjoy more of that aspect of not really knowing things, and I don't know. Yeah, I feel like I'm trailing off at this point, but overall, Andrei Rublev was great. It was great. It just wasn't amazing masterpiece, you know. It's almost a masterpiece. Maybe it is a masterpiece. I don't know. Just jumped around a bit too much for me. Didn't give enough setup to each chapter, you know, because every chapter, almost every chapter would start, and I'd have this kind of 10-minute adjustment period of thinking, right, where are we now? You know, I know that this is 10 years later or whatever, but where is this? And oh, okay, I kind of recognize that place, I guess. It was like a resetting every half an hour. Oh, right, now where are we? You know, and there's like during the raid, you know, I'm like, okay, so where's Andrei Rublev? The setup of this raid goes on for ages, and then after about 15 minutes, they're banging on the outside of this chapel. We cut inside, and there he is. Oh, so he was, you know, oh, I wish I'd known he was there. It would have had me more invested in them raiding this place, you know. So I don't know. Again, it is what it is. Now, if you go check out Joel's video, the reason I was just looking over there, can I see it from here? Yes. If you go check out Joel's video, unless he hasn't posted it yet, which is highly likely if you're watching this as soon as I've posted this video, he will be watching and talking about, hopefully, Harakiri. Yes, in fact he bought this. So that's another reason I felt bad, because he actually went out and bought the film to watch it, and so I really hope that he likes it. But if he doesn't, I'm really interested to hear why not. But I'm really interested to hear his thoughts on it in general. And Joel, I hope that my video was interesting to you in terms of my thoughts on it. Again, I tried to not put a cap on it and just talk about as much as I possibly could. And yeah, I think, you know, the mark of a great film is one that you definitely watch again, and I would give this one another shot. I think I'd enjoy it more knowing where it's going, and after reading the Wikipedia like outline and stuff, I'm sure that I would enjoy it more the next time. So a great movie, yes, a 9 out of 10, and that's about all I've got to say. So thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime, and if he picks a shorter film, then we could get the ball rolling a lot quicker, I suppose, because there are a lot on his list of films that he loves or that he thinks are great films that he was going to recommend to me. There's loads I'd love to see and talk about and make a video like this. So if this goes down well, you know, we might do it again. So anyway, thank you for watching, and finally, I'll see you in the next video.